ever taken an engine out before? Welcome to TnBizzKits, another episode. Here we have got a Toyota Corolla with a 4-age, and we are kindly joined by Neil, who has probably commented, definitely liked, definitely kind of shared and supported the channel. He's kindly come down to meet me this morning on this beautiful sunny summer's day, and so we're going to have a poke around his car because he's got a 4-age, a blacktop, which I kind of still miss compared to the silver top, especially with some of the troubles that I've had with it recently. Neil, do you want to just talk about like your car and kind of what you've done to it so far?
Yeah, so I've had the car about 3 years. I think I got it in August 21 in Norfolk. Planning to keep it stock. It was just a replacement for my old Yaris at the time. And then I started doing more research into sort of what people do to them, and you know how that rabbit hole goes. You very quickly get into it and you find out about this engine and how easily it goes in, and yeah, that's kind of where I haven't stopped really. I've just sort of, it started as a completely stock car and
with a 4AFE?
4AFE, yeah.
So in terms of the changeover was relatively straightforward because the blocks are the same.
Yeah.
It's just, you were saying the wiring was a bit of a pig.
Yeah, it's the you have to wire the original, so the blacktop wiring into the OEM fuse box, the 4AFE fuse box. So it's a bit of a pain, but there's quite a few resources on there, and I've had loads of help with this, like people who are well versed in this engine and this car. So I can't take all the credit for it, but it's been very challenging.
Yeah, well, so I publicise TnBizzKits on a number of forums. One of the Facebook forums which I do it on is a 4-age forum, because you know there's a huge global following on these engines, and the 20 valves in particular are considered, you know, they were, I think it was designed in coercion with Yamaha, so you know they are well developed engines and well liked engines globally. I kind of originally met you through that, I think it was, and then you know obviously you watched the channel. Lots of questions. I'm not the oracle by any means. Neil's probably actually done more work than I have on 4-ages. I'm going to be asking him about clutches and stuff. Show him my engine, which is currently out. So it'll be really interesting to get Neil's reaction on how my engine is, because I don't have a dizzy cap, for example. Loads of bits and bobs are different, I think, between the engines, but they do look very similar in many ways as well. So, you know, you might be able to advise me on a couple of bits. I think there's some bits that I definitely could do with some advice on. So, yeah, so you put the engine in. Was it you that had problems with the cam slipping and stuff as well?
Strange issue with the pressure relating to the cam, where you know I was doing it, just been rebuilt, and the cam would just slip, or for no reason. There'd be no evidence of belt slipping, but then you would look at the time and it would be off, and it had made zero sense. I mean, the engine builder couldn't work it out. I couldn't work it out, definitely. Anyone I asked would give me, you know, other things, and it was, I don't want to worry about that. But it ended up just being related to pressure of the takeoff. Essentially, you're meant to use an oil cooler, which I never installed, so I blanked them off. And I think what was happening, it was pressure was slowly going down, so you must have had flow, but the pressure was low. So
was you getting low oil pressure, or you was getting excessive oil pressure?
It's weird, because on one side it would say, so my gauge was plumbed into the takeoff, and it would say, oh yeah, you're getting like 80, 90, which is on the high side. But then my interior oil can would flash, obviously indicating there's low pressure. So it was very all over the place, and I basically just wired it as it was, taken off the thermostat, and for now I haven't had any issues. I've done about 500 miles now, 500 or 600 miles.
So it's basically just working as, I reckon, a sandwich takeoff now. It doesn't matter, there's no thermostat, so it's constantly flowing. The only thing possibly to check, which I think will be okay, is obviously the oil is getting through the oil filter, because the oil thermostat might like divert a two-way to a two-way and kind of change channels inside, depending on how the sandwich takeoff works.
I ran it without the sandwich plate, but I couldn't run the oil temperature.
Of course, yeah.
So when I did that, the oil pressure gauge was plumbed directly into where the factory pressure port is. I think it's just below the power steering bracket.
Yeah.
And that was reading like constantly. You know, I think it's meant to read 75 psi at 3,000 revs, and that was bang on. So
that's good.
Yeah.
And its pool's okay now. So as you said, you haven't done any long-term damage.
No.
Which is good. Cool.
Stupidity from a young mind, I suppose.
Okay, so Toyota Corolla, what plate's this on? It's on T plates. Oh, that's 98?
9, I think it is.
99.
Yeah,
okay. It's kind of a work in progress,
Yeah.
but you're mainly kind of concentrating now the engine's in. I bet that's a massive relief for you.
Massively.
Some plans for the bodywork, not a huge amount. We was admiring your welded arches. That's rust repair, wasn't it?
Yeah, just I mean these are the classic place for them to rust. Like all the Toyotas, they're probably indestructible, but they will rust out eventually. That's the problem with them. Any Toyota owner can tell you.
Toyota and Japanese cars,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Essentially, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I'd say I've touched basically every single bolt, or 90% of every bolt on this car. So I'm very familiar with it. But, you know, the whole idea of it is basically just have a bit of a rough and ready. It's taken a lot of inspiration from lots of different cars. So definitely a work in progress. But you could probably talk about every single bit in detail and it'd take too long. So
No, that's fine. And in terms of general use, so you're going to be doing like mainly road use. Do you want to do track days? Do you want to do like rallying? Or?
I think that's probably where I messaged you, wasn't it, about the track days? I think I saw you post. I saw you was local.
Yeah.
That was the original idea for this. I was like, oh, I'd really like to do some track days, but I do want it to be a fast sort of back road car. Just chuck it in a corner, and just it's like it's on rails. And I really enjoy that sort of, and use this to learn, say like heel toe, rev match, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's really good because obviously where it's NA, it's so responsive.
Yep.
And it's a good little chassis as well. I've always preferred the handling on this to my MR2. I just think it's far more chuckable. That's kind of where I fell in love with it. I just literally bought it as a to B. Oh, I like the shape, and ended up doing all this.
Yeah, definitely. Once I get onto track days and stuff, I mean, this goes for everyone who wants to come on a track day or come and see me, and anyone who wants to be on the channel and show their car. I'm more than happy to entertain other people. But yeah, if and when, hopefully, I finally get out doing track days again and my car is back together, it'll be great to kind of have a TnBizzKits gathering and a few people come along, all of the varieties of cars or engines and stuff. That would be superb. I would absolutely love it if that ever occurred. Track days, road mileage, obviously at the moment just covering mileage, checking your engine install, and then hopefully onto track and kind of go from there.
I was saying this would have been the furthest I've driven up until yesterday.
Yeah.
So this is from my house, 10 miles. So I haven't really been doing too many miles. It's just running in and kind of I'm now using the whole rev range. So
you're getting a bit more confidence behind it then. Yeah.
I mean, it is a big difference. Although the power, in terms of power from the original engine and this engine is probably 50 or something, it's completely different. It's
from the original 4A FE to the blacktop. So you've had this port and polished, right? So you should be looking for a relatively stock NA, and it's had a fresh rebuild as well. So you should be looking, 165-ish. Yeah. So I mean, that's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah.
It probably weighs. I mean, in standard guys, I think they weigh. They're actually quite heavy for what they are, about 1,100 kilos, I believe.
Okay.
But, it's fully stripped to an extent. I've still got to remove the sunroof. Going to remove all the sound deadening.
Yeah.
It's probably taken inspiration from, the best way to describe it, Honda make driver's cars.
Yeah.
Toyota make amazingly reliable cars, but they don't necessarily have that driver's edge like the Type R.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
so
I like it.
doing what they should have done in terms of this. That's my plan. It's taken inspiration from FXGT, which is the previous generation body style, E10, that had a silver top from factory. It's Japanese only. And essentially what I've got is the newer version, new body style E11 with the newer engine. So
there's a lot of thought behind it then, really, isn't there, in terms of, I mean, you could just go, I mean, you was talking about, I don't want to turbo it, I want to keep it NA, and there's a lot of thought that's gone into, engine choice, chassis, obviously the car, you've obviously liked this style of car, there is some pedigree behind it in terms of, they did rally with them and stuff, so, and they probably still do, you probably still see Corollas around and stuff at various club level stage rallies and stuff, so they are well liked cars. So
very underappreciated. I think at one point the most sold car in the world, but for some reason this is actually quite a rare shape.
Yeah.
But that kind of goes back to that Honda thing where I love Toyota more than I do Honda, but you can really appreciate the cars they make, like the Type R's where everything's red and colour matched, the Recaros from factory,
And the engines were solid, out the box,
exactly.
People would just buy them, like the Civic Type R's, buy them, brag them on track.
Go home and go to Sunday lunch.
I was on, I think it was like on a Track Time Facebook or something like that. And I asked a question a few months ago about what are the cars that you were really surprised that you don't see on track that you would see on track. Okay. And like you don't see, for example, like RS4s. Oh, really? You don't see like C663s, but you do see M3s, M4s. So in terms of like German cars, BMW definitely rule the roost in terms of track cars.
They're a bit more driver focused, I think, aren't they? They're a bit like... my friend's got an M4 and he loves that thing.
Yeah.
I think he says the same thing. It's so more driver focused.
But in terms of power and cost and everything else, you don't see so many of them. You don't see like little Fiat 500 R-Baths on track, yet they do them on Racer Champions. Don't see as many Ford Focuses, but now they got the RSs. There's a few cars that you kind of thought, it's really weird that you don't see so many of them around. It's just full of Golfs, MX-5s, Honda Civics,
it's like
M4s, M3s. No Misha.
Yeah, his videos. I mean, he did actually review one of these, but it was I think it had a different gearbox. So the gear ratios were super long, and you could tell that it was screaming for this gearbox. This guy can drive basically any car. And he seems to have the most fun in like the Hondas.
I absolutely loved having a poke around Neil's car. It's a little bit rough around the edges, but it's certainly still a project and work in progress. Now he's got the engine in and working and covering some mileage. He's got the weight reduction coming down. He's got the K-strut, poly bushes, adjustable suspension. It's a really nice looking car, and it does now shift. So on that note, it's time to jump in it and let's go for a ride.
Crucial tool set there.
Random sock. Check it out.
What, wiping the dipstick?
Yeah, literally.
I'm interested to see if it sounds the same as mine. I mean, it should do. It's the same engine. It sounds exactly the same. Sounds so good. Sounds so good.
It does. It's addicting, man. The petrol gauge, you actually see it go down. It's crazy. It's only a 1.6.
It's like every track day, I normally end up with writing a WhatsApp message to myself of all the things that have gone wrong and the things I need to fix while I'm out. Before I next go out.
In order of importance, like an MOT.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry about that next time.
Yeah, normally top of it is overheating.
That's where the gauges seem to stay. That's like their natural position.
That's spot on.
So, It's just this. I'm not sure if that's too low or.
No.
Ideally, you want your cooling to be cool, right? So,
yeah, I mean 85 to 90, I think is fine for water. Oil at 110 seems okay. I mean, you've got the opportunity to put an oil cooler on. And I think it would be worthwhile trying it. I mean, if you can get water and oil the same, so like 90 degrees.
Is that kind of what you're aiming?
I think that's pretty good.
It's actually quite a compliant car. Like, it's really, my experience of cars is not extensive. I'm not like a reviewer, but to me, it goes exactly where I want it to. Obviously, that's helped by the poly bushes and being more rigid. But it's really a nice car to drive. It's just when you go over bumps, you really feel everything. That's the only bad thing, I would say.
But then you've got adjustable suspension, haven't you? I mean, have you tried softening that up?
I've kind of put it in the middle in a minute. I feel like it's a good balance.
So you could try softening it up and see if it makes a difference.
It would be nice to get a little bit of a natural backfire.
It sounds like it's on the cusp.
Yeah, I mean the cat. If you've got that sports cat in there, that should hopefully free it up a little bit.
Yeah, you're not far off from getting a couple of pops.
With the beautiful sunshine on our side and a gorgeous soundtrack to note as well. We took a long, winding B-road route back to mine so I could show Neil the garage and where TnBizzKits happens. As my interviews always go, we talked far too long about stuff that really isn't too interesting on a YouTube channel that's only 15 minutes long. But it was good to catch up with Neil, pointing out different bits between the engines, advice about where common oil leaks are on our engines, and just generally sharing knowledge, kicking tyres, sniffing petrol. It's what we do here in TnBizzKits. And that just about wraps it up for another episode. It's been a long time coming for this one, and things are going to change going forward. But I'm really glad that you've taken the time to tune into TnBizzKits and see what I'm up to. So make sure you like, share, subscribe, and tune in for the next episode. See you soon.